So if you're someone who plays Apex Legends on a frequent basis, then most likely you have a very interesting relationship with this game. I like to compare the relationship that I have with Apex to a toxic relationship, because although you know it's bad for you, although you know it is very negative and it just isn't really, you know, a good thing, you still enjoy it, you still come back to it even though it's trash. And that's not me saying that Apex is completely trash, because this game does have some very positive aspects about it, and I will get to that in this video. But I want to take a general look at Apex today and discuss why we love to play this game so much, although it has so many faults. I've made several videos like this in the past. I've made videos talking about the positive aspects about this game, the negative aspects about this game, the community response to this game, so like I'm no stranger to making these kind of videos. But I also want to give you guys a different perspective on why Apex is the way it is and why we kind of subconsciously still enjoy this game so much, and also why Respawn needs to be very careful about how they actually, you know, treat this game moving forward. If you guys are interested in this video, be sure to drop a like right now. A like goes a very long way on YouTube, as I always say. And also, we're so close to 50k subs. Click that sub button if you enjoy the content. I'd appreciate that so much. So what's good about Apex? What actually makes everyone want to play Apex, and what made Apex even blow up? Because obviously for Apex to be this successful, there had to have some kind of positive and, you know, good things about it. So let's break the good into separate parts, right? First of all, I've said this before, Apex has the best gunplay in any BR and some of the best gunplay in any game out right now, period. The gunplay itself is really competitive, it's really, you know, action packed, but it's also very addictive. The more you improve at this game, the more you get those beams, the more you understand how to control recoil and just, you know, control gunfights, the more you realize how, you know, almost perfect Respawn made the gunplay in this game. And that's one thing that I can't take away from Respawn ever. Respawn knows definitely how to make good FPS games. Obviously they have a background in Timefall, so Apex has a very good, you know, foundation already. If Apex had no abilities, no legends, you know, no crazy outlandish stuff, the gunplay itself would be enough to make a very somewhat successful game. And I think everyone watching this video right now can more or less agree that the gunplay in this game is very good, and it's one thing that Respawn did absolutely correct when they made this game. The gunplay is just, it's very satisfying and it's just very enjoyable. Then we dump the legends of Apex into the mix. The whole idea of having different characters in an FPS game or different personalities and stuff isn't new. Overwatch was one of the, you know, biggest games to actually do something like that, but in the battle royale space, obviously Apex is, if not the only one, definitely the most successful game to actually pull this off. Each character in Apex has a completely different playstyle, which basically gives you completely different ways to enjoy and just play this game. For example, I could play Wraith one day and have a completely different experience when playing Mirage the next day. It almost feels as if I'm playing a completely different game. So the way that Respawn handled legends and their abilities in this game, honestly, as we could probably all see, you know, really made Apex stand out a lot. So we have great gunplay, we have really interesting and unique legends, and Respawn also just added on multiple maps in a BR. Apex is honestly the first battle royale game to introduce this kind of map variation. We have 3 playable maps right now in this game, all with very different feels, and we kind of forget that sometimes. Like, it's not very common to have a battle royale game with 3 completely, you know, full playable maps. I mean, granted, we all have our favorite map and we all have different experiences on these maps as well, but that's what makes Apex different, you know, like we have different experiences. Apex isn't just like a surface level game. There's so many different layers, so many different things to learn and adapt to, and it makes it a very unique game. Apex isn't like any other BR out right now, which is honestly why it's ascended so quickly and it's become one of the biggest games out right now, because it's just so different and unique. But even though Apex has all of this individuality, every single game has downfalls and negatives. And Apex, as we all know, is no exception to this rule. There's many negative things about Apex. We could talk about the servers, we could talk about, you know, the hackers, we could talk about balancing issues, bugs and stuff as well. But if we're being honest, every single BR game, every single game on a whole, has these exact same issues. Apex isn't special because it has balancing issues, or it has hackers, or it has server issues. Pretty much every single big BR game, or every single big game, as I just said, has some kind of level of each one of those issues. It may not be as terrible or as frequent, but trust me, those issues do exist in many other games as well. So let's look at the negatives in Apex from a different light and try to really figure out, what's really bad about this game. If I were to ask you guys right now, right, what do you think is really bad about Apex besides all of the common stuff like hackers and server issues and bugs? What do you really think is bad about this game? I have my answer, guys, and it's actually a lot more simple than you may think. This is just my perspective and my point of view of things, but it seems to me that because Apex is such a unique game, because Apex has all of those positives that we just mentioned a couple of minutes ago, because there aren't any games out there quite like Apex, the people who make decisions about Apex don't have that much to fear. Let me actually rephrase that real quick because it could potentially sound very wrong. Respawn is honestly a very, very talented studio, right? We know this, and the people who actually work at Respawn are also some very, good people. But there's also a business aspect to any game, right? The only reason we have Apex and the only reason we even have games like Warzone as well is because of one simple factor: Fortnite. If Fortnite wasn't as successful as it was, we most likely wouldn't be here making this video, and Warzone wouldn't exist. So many games just would not exist because Fortnite, believe it or not guys, had a very successful model, and obviously other game developers wanted in on that success. I think there's a case to be made about Apex being comfortable where it's at, and because Apex is in such a good spot right now, yes, it does have competition from like Warzone, but I still feel like anyone who plays Warzone is a very different demographic from those who play Apex, right? Because Apex is in such a good spot and there's little to no competition right now, I would say there's less of an importance to make really game-changing decisions and really improve this game a lot. Maybe if Apex was in direct competition with some other BR games and stuff, there would be a lot more serious decision making taking place. And by the way guys, this decision making process will affect everything from balancing issues to hackers in this game, to server issues, to new game modes like solos and stuff. Maybe Respawn could just be a little bit too comfortable right now with their position and with where Apex is at, which is why we can actually observe scenarios where Apex has bugs lasting like 2 or 3 weeks, even months sometimes, and it just takes really long for certain changes to be made. There isn't really much of a need to be worried because Apex already has its solidified fan base, and although everyone threatens to leave Apex and stuff, for the most part guys, the fan base has been growing and the game has been growing despite all of the issues we have. So yes, while Apex does have many negatives, as I said, the servers are really buggy, a lot of hackers as well, balancing issues too. Those issues could honestly just stem from Respawn being very comfortable with where Apex is at. I really want to know what you guys actually think about this topic because it's really interesting to me. We tend to see so many games falling off, right? And when these games fall off, they tend to have this resurgence of really good content, and everyone is like, why doesn't this game just, start off with really good content like this? And it could be because there wasn't really a need to grow or a need to make those decisions when the game was already doing good. So honestly, the real question here today is, does Apex need to fall off for Respawn to make the changes we want to see? What are your thoughts on that? That's it for me today guys. Once again, I hope you enjoyed. Don't forget to leave your thoughts on this topic down below. I read almost every single comment, so don't be shy. I want to see your thoughts, and I'll see you in some more Apex. Till next time.